Egypt, known as the land of the pyramids, is hosting one of the significant United Nations conferences. The tourist city of Sharm el-Sheikh, situated on the coast of the Red Sea, is a temporary home to government representatives and environmental interest groups that have convened to discuss planet Earth. The Conference of Parties is an annual climate change gathering organized by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The 27th edition of the Conference of Parties, also known as COP27, gathered in the resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh to discuss the global impact of climate change and explore mitigation and adaptation solutions. The 2022 theme is Together for Implementation. President Hakainde Hichilema was for the second time among global leaders taking the matters of climate change very seriously.
We expect that this COP27 will address some of our key issues that are arising from the climate change negative effect. Mr. President, distinguished the delegates, our government's home in Zambia has demonstrated a marked commitment to combat climate change in line with the requirements of the Paris Agreement. However, in order for us to be able to maximize on our contributions to ameliorating the negative effects of climate change, and yet at the same time meeting our people's minimum requirements to maintain their livelihoods, we need strong and enduring international partnership and support which deliver on its commitments. I think the key word here is to deliver on our commitments, the commitments of us, of course, the commitments of our partners.
At this year's Conference of Parties, President Hichilema was leading the African Group of Negotiators, AGN, as chairman of an organ that leads and coordinates climate change programs in Africa. Mr. Hichilema stepped up into the spotlight of chairing the AGN that rallied the African voice.
As chair of the African Group of Negotiators, Zambia has submitted an ambitious, revised and updated nationally determined contribution as required by the Paris Agreement. Mr. President, distinguished delegates, climate change adaptation remains a top priority for all of us without exception. Therefore, we expect that COP27 will deliver a milestone outcome in advancing the work program of the global goal on adaptation that we adopted in COP26 last year in Glasgow. We call on all our esteemed partners to fulfill their pledge of $100 billion per year of funding for us all to meet our intended goals around this challenge, climate change. If we don't meet our commitments, we make the various commitments, we don't meet them, obviously our credibility as individual countries, but also as a group of nations, a League of Nations, global League of Nations, is at question.
On his second day at the conference, Mr. Hichilema maintained his focus on networking with key stakeholders to make a case for Zambia's investment needs. Under his stewardship, Zambia signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the European Union (EU) for forest conservation. This is a major achievement in slowing deforestation, considering research findings report that the country loses approximately 276,000 hectares of forest cover annually, leading to severe forest and land degradation.
First for us is to just express our gratitude to the European Union and obviously for partnering with us in forest management, sustainable management, which is extremely important to our needs as communities, but also our needs for beyond the community needs, the consumption, raw material input into industrial activity, and for our own, basically, market-related demand. Another issue is just the proliferation of demand for wood-based products. For us, we have some of the most pristine wood, hardwood, which is in demand across the world. And because of that demand, that pull for high-quality timber, hardwood timber, so to say, there's definitely a backward effect onto the forest. I'm very delighted, Madam President, you indicated the importance of the European Union organized market for wood and wood products. And I think the two issues around there are important, I think, to all of us here. One is to ensure that the market pays the source of timber a fair price. The market must pay the source of timber a fair price, such that our citizens don't have to cut more timber to increase the revenue, yet the market is able to pay a fair price.
That our forests are in danger, and that means if our forests are in danger, our lungs, our green lungs, we are in danger too. Only healthy forests can store carbon so they can help us fight climate change. Only healthy forests can provide the resources that round about 1.6 billion people currently need, that rely on the forests and the existence of the forests. But what we also do know is that deforestation is man-made. So if it's us who trigger deforestation, it is us who can do something against it.
Another highlight of the day was the International Chamber of Commerce ICC recognition of the contribution Zambia is making in mitigating climate change impact. The ICC acknowledged Zambia's success story in meeting its nationally determined contributions, NDCs, towards the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions in line with the commitments made at the Paris Agreement of 2015. For such an inspiring achievement, Mr. Hichilema was presented with the Presidential Transport Champion of the Year award.
Just in acknowledging this award, first and foremost, to thank you for making that decision to choose us in Zambia to be recipients of this wonderful award in this space of transport. Obviously, I believe contextualized to issues around the electrical vehicle industry, the new industry of the future, a huge industry, I must say, trillions of dollars in there. And it so happens that we as Zambia, as part of our desire to contribute towards managing, ameliorating the negative effects of climate change, and the move from carbon fuels to, if you like, cleaner energy, green energy, electric vehicles is one of those industries. And we are paying particular attention to promoting this sector. The sector, as I said, of the future, and we're doing it slightly different this time. For years and years, African countries tended to do things on their own, even though they had common interests that they could band together and become a bit more effective. I'm talking about us in Zambia, next door neighbor Congo DR, with a huge resource endowment in what is called the electric vehicle metals. And to be precise, copper, cobalt, nickel, manganese, and lithium-based metals. So the two of us countries in our region host huge quantities of this. And we have taken a decision that we will work together as two sister countries in exploiting these resources, not to benefit just our economies, but of course, but to benefit the region, to benefit the global community as we transit towards green economies in the transport space. Once more, thank you very much to you, sir, and your team for this honor. We are humbled. We receive it on behalf of Zambia. We receive it also on behalf of many other Africans and LDC.
One would think the transport award would slow his drive and cap his busy schedule before returning to Zambia. But for Mr. Hichilema, work of seizing every opportunity to market Zambia for the benefit of every citizen had just started. He went on to meet officials from the Commonwealth, where he emphasized the need for alternative energy sources for Zambia. He called for investment in this sector in order to create an energy mix for the country and the region.
We want to improve the mix now, the energy mix, green energy mix, if I may put it that way. So solar and other issues, green hydrogen is very important to us while we continue investing in the hydro. Because we have the resource endowment, we have the hydrology, and I think it's important that we take advantage of it. And on that score, I just wanted to indicate to you is that, you see, with our push to get to green energy, we believe we should not look at countries in isolation. We should look at countries, we should look at regions. In our SADC region, for example, we have demand within the region that Zambia can meet much quicker.
At his meeting with the International Finance Corporation, a World Bank Group subsidiary, Mr. Hichilema outlined Zambia's strategic location, driving the message that Zambia is best situated to become a trade and economic hub in the region. He also encouraged the International Finance Corporation to take keen interest in Zambia's mining, agriculture and energy sectors.
The country has so much to offer to its citizens, to offer to investors, to offer to philanthropists. And in these sectors are only a few. Mining is still big for us, still a big ticket for us. And mining now for the electric vehicles, we have most of those metals. We've signed an MOU with Congo. Between Congo and ourselves hold substantially huge resources in these electric vehicle minerals. So, and we've agreed that when investors set up in Zambia, they can access the material from Congo and vice versa, from Zambia to Congo. I think it's a smart move we're taking with Congo.
The IFC delegation was sold on the vision and made a commitment to undertake a feasibility assessment trip to Zambia before the end of the year.
We need also to look at Zambia as part of the solution. Absolutely. And not only so that's one part that I've been asked my team to look and bring me very quickly an assessment of what is feasible or not and what is a time frame for us to work. Agriculture, we have just presented to our board a platform of $6 billion, which means what is a platform? A platform that we will be dedicating $3 billion of our own account for agriculture, and we will be mobilizing the equivalent on the market, so that we will be able to syndicate up to $6 billion of investment in agriculture. This is my personal priority, agriculture. I think that, and it includes also working on fertilizers. So I'm currently talking to some of the countries on the continent. We will have phosphate available and use green hydrogen to see if you can do ammoniac and produce fertilizer mix in countries in the continent. So he will be polite, he will listen to me because they are very nice and polite, but it's more important for me to bring it. So what I'm trying to do,
things done.
She's done in my visit. I like the team to have done the work. So when we meet again, Mr. President, I can tell you on these three things. We moved this thing, we didn't move because these were some specific problems. If we move in that direction, in this time frame, I can move. This is the kind of conversation that I would like to bring to you when I visit Zambia.
Later in the day, Mr. Hichilema attended with some of his fellow leaders from the SADC region an event exploring the possibilities that lie in the energy sector in Southern Africa. President Hichilema spoke about the joint venture Zambia and Zimbabwe are currently implementing in the Batoka Gorge hydropower project.
Now, let's move away from the type of renewable we've talked about, green we've talked about. It so happens that we need solar as well. If we don't provide that alternative energy, lighting, energy to power households, climate change
mitigation measures will become very difficult. So to take our communities off climate damaging activities around lighting, around energy, we do need, as we talk of the grid, the power pool, we do need to take care of the needs of our communities for alternative livelihoods, alternative energy, even for education. Then we can have tele-education, we can have telemedicine, we can have all of those things that to some extent are putting pressure on rural-urban migration because we can improve the living standards of our people in the rural areas. That too is important, in my view, since it's a case for investment. And it means we as nations can also allocate reasonable amounts of money, taxpayers' money, in this sector, but also marrying that, leveraging that with the investors that are seated here or are listening to this conversation.
Despite taking every opportunity to network with financiers and other leaders on climate solutions and joint ventures, Mr. Hichilema equally took his role as delegation leader of the Zambian team very seriously. He took time to meet the delegates at the Zambian pavilion, urging them to put in their best for the country.
When you are in a place out here like this, you must not just be here to participate in side meetings, in main meetings. You must be here to extract value. You must be here to extract value. That's how my mind works. There's an opportunity, the flip side of this risk is an opportunity for us to reduce the negative effects of climate change. And in here, in this environment, in this COP27, go back to COP26 in Glasgow, and then Paris, all of us, there are things that we need to look out for in order to help ameliorate the negative effect of climate change, to mitigate, to minimize the negative effects. Everybody is looking for something out of here. For example, Climate Adaptation Fund. Talking to the President of the European Union Commission. But also for us in the financial services sector, when your country is able to help bring credit lines, which are fairly priced, we expect that benefit to be passed on to the customers as interest rates. What? Interest rates. You still make your money, but we can support more plans.
As he was leaving the 27th edition of the Conference of Parties that was still ongoing, Mr. Hichilema held a bilateral closed-door meeting with his Botswana counterpart, Mwiikisa. President Hichilema summed up his experience at COP27 by challenging world leaders to put the planet first.
There are times we have choices as countries. In this matter, no single country has a choice not to put in place climate damage mitigation measures, because the effect of the climate change is obvious. It's more costly than any other incentive. So the biggest incentive is that we have to move away from carbon-based energy, because it's killing our people. Climate change is killing our people, distorting our livelihoods. Everything. So it's a no-go area. So there should be no other incentive other than the fact that we cannot continue exploiting resources and emitting greenhouse gases as we have been doing.
As chair of the African Group of Negotiators, Mr. Hichilema ably communicated the continent's expectations from the climate change conference. And as an ardent proponent of national development, President Hichilema marketed Zambia's investment profile through his bilateral and multilateral strategic meetings. President Hakainde Hichilema's COP27 outing was indeed a worthy undertaking.